Heaven just knows what it wants. Will I go back to the place where I belong? Everyone could break my heart, but I try my best to not fall apart. And I find it hard to let go. The memories keep me together. Gotta fight till the end, no pressure, no pressure. And I find it hard to say no to the ones who want something better, to the ones who never say never. You'll be my pleasure. I got nothing to be scared of, because where people live, there is always love. I know the answers in my heart, so I'll try my best to not fall apart. And I find it hard to let go. The memories keep me together. Gotta fight till the end, no pressure, no pressure. And I find it hard to say no to the ones who want something better, to the ones who never say never. Will you be my pleasure? Find it hard to let go. Memories keep me together. Gotta fight till the end, no pressure, no pressure. And I find it hard to say no to the ones who want something better, to the ones who never say never. Will you be my pleasure?
Won't you take me home? Give me wings to fly. We can run away. Castle in the sky. Won't you take me home and give me wings to fly? We can be alone in the castle in the sky. We can run away and leave this world behind. Please just take me home to a castle in the sky. Castle in the sky. Castle in the sky. Won't you take me
I can wait another minute. I can wait another second to be with you for an eternity. I feel like I am in a daydream. Every moment that I spend.
I apologize.
Good afternoon, evening,
morning, wherever it is in the world you are, and welcome in to the Anti-Stall Racing IMSA series. Round number 2 here from Hockenheim, not Road America, as it says on my screen. It's actually Hockenheim that we are at. I am ever joined by the ever-lovely Wes and Gerard producing in the booth. So, Wes, how are you doing, mate?
I'm good. I've managed to get to Germany. I don't know if you've gone to America or not, but I've gone the other way. I'm good. I'm really looking forward to this. It's not a circuit you see often. I quite like it actually. It's one of my favorite German tracks. I think I'm always not sure if I prefer this to Nürburgring, but it's a good one here. So I'm looking forward to it. The stadium section is going to be a bit feisty, I feel, but it should be good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Definitely the multi-class action here today at Hockenheim is one that's going to provide a lot of entertainment, especially considering there are 3 car classes, obviously. We've got the GT3s, the LMP2s, and the hypercar class all battling it out on track at the same time. So 1 hour of action, but 3 races happening. And it's all free, live for you guys on the YouTube. So, thank you all for joining us, and we hope the race is super entertaining, because, last week was absolutely mental.
Yeah, it was very enjoyable, wasn't it? It was actually really good. I think the LMP2 racing was the closest of the bunch. I think it's got a bit spread out in the hypercars, and GT3 did get dominated in the end, but as you can see, there is a lot of the GT3 cars here, and they're very mixed as well. We've got Audis, Lambos, Porsches, and Ferraris here, there, and they all look absolutely splendid, and they sound fantastic.
You know, one thing I will say is every single time I see a BMW logo in the in the timing screen, I always expect it to be a GT3, and I completely forget that the hypercar is a BMW as well.
You think it's going to be a big boy, but actually it's just LMP with just this massive 2 nostrils as somebody spins in the background. Yeah, massive. No, they haven't. They've got massive nostrils. It's like, yep, there's a Beamer. You would think maybe they wouldn't have that, as there is another car off. Does he hit the wall?
No, I think he just managed to avoid it.
It's the slowest off ever. But we will find the...
wait, no, that's not Lars Van Ryn, actually. That's Stefan.
Stefan does eventually find the road once again. The liveries look awesome in the GT3s and the Lambos. Oh, do they sound great?
Yeah, always. The Lamborghini, I think, a lot of people wouldn't argue if you said that the Lamborghini was one of the better sounding GT3 cars. I think people would normally say it's between the Lamborghinis, the Audis, and the Porsches.
I'd agree with the Audi. Yeah, the Audi is it's a great sounding car.
As people are starting to get their times in, this is obviously their first flying lap. Now, the way that the qualifying works, for those of you who aren't aware in this series, we do have it split into 3 sections. First of which, we've got the GT3s who are on our screen right now. We are currently on board with Lars Van Ryn for that Altitude Esports racing team. And once the GT3s finish their qualifying, I believe it is 15 minutes each. Yeah. But I could be wrong about that one.
15 minutes each, yep, definitely right.
So after the 15 minutes of GT3 qualifying, any GT3s who are still on their lap will be able to finish it, but after they finish that lap, they will have to...
Oh, is he going to save it? Oh, he does. Lovely.
Very, very close. But yes, so that is...
someone else didn't? Jesus, who was that? That was Leo Racing, that was Ponta, I think, the race winner from last week. Yeah, it was.
Going into T1, taking a bit too much curb, and yep.
Oh, he bosses it.
That's what the Audi will do. But yes, that is why we do have a 45-minute qualifying. It is because the way that this works is you'll have 15-minute qualifying for GT3, 15-minute for LMP2, and then 15-minute for Hypercar, and they all go simultaneously one after the other, so that we don't get a mix of cars all trying to find space on track at the same time.
Oh, wow. Watching that back on the stream of the bonnet just coming off the car when it hits the wall is just... It's so cool.
It is aggressive.
Yeah, it's the coolest thing, but I'm just a little nerd like that. I've always wanted games to have cars that can explode as they hit the wall like they properly are. I wonder if you hit the
BeamNG
debris, is it
would be
damaged?
Yeah,
Yeah, something like
BeamNG would be your perfect game.
yeah, definitely as a kid. As a kid, I would love that because I enjoyed the idea of being able to break a car in the game exactly how it would in real life. But yeah, I wonder if you hit the bonnet, if someone came along and hit that, would that cause damage to their car? Or is it not that sophisticated yet?
I don't actually know.
I'm
I think
intrigued.
because I don't think we've seen that happen
No, I haven't.
yet. As we do see Alvaro put himself P4 currently, and then immediately gets knocked down by Ferrin, who put himself in P4 with a 36.68 at the moment. The timing screens at the moment, it's looking very close between the top two. You have Fabio Ponta and Hakon Grebstad, who are 0.01 of a second away from each other, just casually, 0.01, like it's nothing.
Yeah,
And two different manufacturers as well, which is nice to see. Not normally something you see in iRacing GT3. Two different manufacturers being so close to each other. Especially didn't happen last season, if anybody remembers that. Last season was very much the Porsche Cup. Porsche got a little bit nerfed, so yeah, it was not as popular of a car choice now with all of the GT3 aero changes and the power changes as well that happened. GT3's had a complete overhaul in iRacing now, so it's nice to see all the different manufacturers starting to be a bit more on equal footing, I think. You see still quite a few people taking the Porsche, but definitely Audi, Ferrari, and Lamborghini seem to all be some of the most popular choices at the moment. BMW, I think, is up there for the endurance guys, but for those of you who aren't doing endurance and you focus more on sprints, then definitely Audi and Ferrari seem to be the way to go. Neil coming in saying that he couldn't make it tonight and apologising, and that's not good enough, I think.
There is a few drivers that have said that. Actually, that's at least number 4 I've seen that is ill today. So I'm not sure what people are having in the paddock, but somebody's
they just really don't like Hockenheim, I think.
yeah. Well, they've probably gone to Road America at this rate.
Yeah. As Fabio Ponta has just put himself a 10th quicker than what he just managed to do on his last fastest lap. So Luigi Nespolino also on a charge, by the way. Keep an eye on him, car number 79 for Leo Racing. And a team we know all too well from last season. They were pretty good in every car last season. And the trend is continuing here this week. The trend is very much continuing this week, as we do have a couple of people getting involved in the chat. Feel free to let us know where you're watching from as well. We always love to see where the audience is from. Let us know what you think about the action, who you think's going to win in each class, and also whether or not you guys have a favourite livery yet. We love talking about liveries. That's one of our favourite things to talk about. Although, I will say, there's no controversial liveries this time around, this season out. There's no, is this car colour X or X? There's no,
Yes, there's no green / yellow liveried car.
green or yellow debate.
Apparently, it was yellow. Haha, I disagree. But yeah, apparently it was yellow. It was the actual driver said it was yellow, but I say it was green because it was close to the green. But no, apparently not. But yeah, that was an absolute lovely looking car as well. Well, you know the Leos are definitely. That's I don't know what colour to call that.
Mint.
How have you found that? Like, oh, there's no controversial liveries, Joe. I was like, there's one.
I just thought I'd flick through and try and find one just to mess up what you were saying, really.
The first one you found was... is that... That's cool. I want to say it's green.
It's giving me some Lotus vibes.
Mint, yeah, we'll go with mint. It's mint. That's the colour... I have a shirt coloured like that, and it's called mint, so we'll go with mint.
Yeah.
That is neither green nor blue.
We've got someone here from Greece who's currently watching, supporting the Helisim Is that, I believe that would be the team Helisim. I don't know
Yeah,
who
that's the
is
that's
racing for
Peter.
them. That
PR,
is
Car 23.
Car 23. Nice, nice. Like that number. Like that number a lot. 23 is a great race number. All the best drivers have used it. Don't at me.
What number do you use?
Who, me,
Sam.
personally?
Yeah.
23.
I wonder.
As did my uncle when he was racing and karting, so that also yeah, made a lot of sense. I believe Jensen Button was 23 as well, was he not?
22.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I hate. Sorry,
Yeah,
to
he was,
ruin
he
that
was
for you.
close enough. He was
Yeah.
close enough.
Oh, Brody's got a nice livery. He's got the Rogue energy for the ASR on it. That's nice to see there's more sponsorship going. That's Major's Garage as well. That's a nice sounding Audi as well behind Costa in the new BMW. I don't think we had any BMWs last week. I said last week, 2 weeks ago, but seems like there's 2 now. So another car to add to the class, which is good to see. Even more.
Yeah, because I believe last week was just Ferrari, Audi, and Lambo.
Yeah, and
Maybe
the one
a
sole
Porsche.
Porsche. Yeah.
Racing going on here.
Yeah, he's Brody's wants to pass Costa here, but that BMW's a big boy.
Yeah, I think he'll have him into T2 here quite easily. The number 7 will go for the pass, and in qualifying you shouldn't really be racing each other, but when you get held up, it just seems to happen like that, and there you go. Brody is through, and hopefully Brody can proceed to put in a good lap, as we will see whether or not he aborts this one and just goes for it on the next lap, or, as I believe Costa was flashing the lights there, I'm unsure as to why that was, but that...
Yeah.
Late on the brakes from Costa, not sure why that was, and why Costa seems annoyed, but, hey. Fabio Ponta's doing well on the other end of the spectrum. 1 minute 36.0, which is insane. If I'm
they're
being
really
honest.
close for second. They're 1,000 away from each other in second and third place. That is
Just
incredible.
noticed, yeah, Nespolino and Hakon Grebstad basically doing the exact same lap time, which is
that's impressive.
yeah. It's a shame that both of them are 4/10 off of what Fabio was able to do, though.
Yeah.
Hopefully we see that get a little bit close, because otherwise I think it will be a Leo Racing driver pulling away from first and then everyone else battling to try and keep up, which is not what we really want. We want everybody to everybody to battle well. Fabio is still improving, isn't he?
Yeah, he got it again.
He's still improving through Sector 1. Does he improve through Sector 2? Of course he does. So we're looking at potentially a 1 minute 35 here in GT3 around Hockenheim, which is ludicrous speeds. Can somebody in the stewards team take a look at Fabio's car after qualifying and just double check that he didn't
Someone weigh it.
W hybrid in the back?
Somebody weigh that car.
Yeah, because that is ludicrous speeds right now from Fabio Ponta. He will cross the line. I'm not sure if it's going to be a 35. Easy.
Well, now it's a 7/10 gap, and it looks insane.
Yeah. The craziest thing is the guy in P2 is his teammate.
Yeah, and Luigi's not slow, and Hakon's not slow, so it just shows how incredible that is.
Yeah, these guys are... I mean, that is... Yeah, Fabio is just... I think showing us why he's, why he won last race, really. I think there's not much more that needs to be said. He's, come in here and shown us that GT3 is his calling. He's incredibly quick in the car. And, from what we've heard of him, he's comfortable in the car as well, which is also, that helps. Always helps to be comfortable in a car that you drive. similar to, I imagine a lot of the LMP2 drivers are, comfortable with driving the P2, and all of those that are in the P2s who could have made the step up to hypercar and didn't. I would imagine that is one of the reasons as to why. I'm not sure if there is anyone who did that, but
I think there may be, yeah. I think there is. But that is a good point. Do you reckon during the season we're going to see who is more comfortable in the hypercar, as it is still quite a new car? Are people going to gain time in it, or is it the people that are already comfortable? Is that it? They're going to stay at the top now. Can anyone actually catch them?
I think the people who are already comfortable in the hypercar already have a massive advantage because they can now push it for everything it's worth and find even more time. Whereas the people who aren't comfortable in the car yet need to overcome that bit first before they can start finding time. So it's a bit of like, the faster you can get to grips with the car, the better you'll be in a season, especially when the car is new. Because I think this is probably the shortest time of release to actually like driving it in a league situation that we've had, at least in terms of that I've seen. I would expect, maybe there's been some other leagues who did it literally day one of the car, but in terms of what we see here in ASR, I mean, the BMW came out and within, 2 weeks, the league was running? Like, I think there was maybe slightly longer than that, but even still, it wasn't really long enough to justify, people being more consistent in the car than others. Unless those people are just naturally that quick in that car. And MP2's out on track, Dylan van der Lands, with the lovely No Limits green that is a livery that I saw last season that I did actually really enjoy. It's the LMP2 is changed a little bit from last season. A lot of people saying not as much as they thought it was going to be. It's just slower now. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not that changes anything to do with setups. Whether or not you can get away with running slightly less downforce around a lot of circuits. I wouldn't imagine you would run less downforce here, admittedly, but who knows? I guess we'll find out as the season progresses. We can ask, potentially, seeing if any drivers have had any setup differences from previous seasons. I know we haven't had a repeat track yet between Season 1 of IMSA and Season 2 of IMSA, but who knows? Maybe if we... Do we know what the first repeat track's going to be?
I'm gonna have a look and see what track, if we do repeat any tracks. But yeah, I want to point out about the LMP2s is the racing last week from them was brilliant, and I think that the changes that have been made to the car has helped that. I think improve the side-by-side racing you can have with the car, because there seemed to be a lot more of it in race one than I've seen previous season.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think having a slower car will help to sort of reduce that gap between your fast guys. Especially considering it's always that like last tenth that seems to be the hardest to find, right? When you're looking for time in any form of motorsport. And I think that last tenth is easier to find now in these cars than it was last season, before the changes got made within iRacing. Potentially some people might disagree, but I feel as though, at least as far as LMP2 goes, the class can actually follow each other better now as well, due to some of the aero changes, so that's always nice to have. When a class can follow closer together, naturally you get better racing, you get closer racing, and I think that is something that we've always seen, especially in anything sort of high downforce, World Endurance Championship. You can look at IMSA, you can look at F1 open wheeler type stuff. Any time you reduce the levels of downforce, you get closer and closer racing. You look at the difference between F3 and F1, for example, in terms of how close the top teams are from the bottom teams, and it's night and day difference. Obviously, there are some other bits at play to that, You know, the teams don't have as much money in F3, so everyone is on a bit of more of an even playing field just by being there. But even still, you know, it goes a long way to see, you know, some of the best drivers in the world can enter into a car, and in F3, for example, it seems to be more driver dependent, and in LMP2 as well, especially because everyone's driving the same car, you know, same engine, same chassis. The only difference really is going to be your aero setup, which even then, I mean, is it going to make that much of a difference? Probably not around a track like Hockenheim, you would imagine.
The slower the car, the harder to be faster than everybody else. Seems like the slower you get the slower the car, the harder somebody has it is for somebody to be this much quicker, because in the straight line you're just not going to be able to gain the time. So yeah, so by slowing the LMP2 down slightly, it has, I think, helped. Yeah, because then it just slows everybody up and it brings the back of the pack almost a little bit closer, which is was possibly needed. And this season it does look extremely close, and the racing was great. So I can't wait for it. We also, the thing to note is there isn't any Leo racing team cars in the LMP2 class. That's the only class they're not in. So
That's, I don't want to say that that's helped bring the racing a bit closer, but
it has helped.
Yeah. You can see it.
Yeah,
you can
because
see that it's helped.
the No Limits Racing won last 2 weeks ago with Dylan, and now at the moment they're on pole with Connor. So we've just switched which teams at the top, really. But yeah, I think that makes a difference. And also, the only repeat track this season is Daytona International in 2 rounds' time.
So that'll be the only one that we didn't see last season that we did see last season that we are seeing this season.
Yes.
Wow. So quite a nice variety then between the 2 seasons. I would imagine going into season 3, it's going to be hard to repeat the process.
Yeah, probably.
So we'd have to be running at some proper obscure tracks like Lime Rock or something.
Brown Touch Grand Prix. Go on. I know he won't. I know he won't. I'll call it now for Kevin to do that. I know he won't.
It would be absolutely ridiculous.
Oh, it would be crazy, wouldn't it? Any circuit in England.
Grand Prix. Just multi-class IMSA. Why not?
Have we done Sebring yet? I don't know if we've done Sebring.
Sebring? Sebring was there last season. I'm pretty sure, because I was quite hyped. I was quite excited for Sebring. I remember that Gerard hadn't seen a race there, and I basically just described it as a massive car park, but with a lot of bumps.
Yes.
So, you know, any car park in the UK.
Yeah, at the moment there's potholes honestly, it's dreadful. It is absolutely dreadful at the moment for potholes.
I think it's not just car parks, though. I think it's main roads as well.
Yeah, it's every road you go down at the moment. It is horrible to drive in England at the moment, but luckily here in Hockenheim, not too bumpy. Curbs though, sausage curbs. We did see someone a minute ago hit one of them, and it did look like the LMP2 didn't like it very much, I must admit.
Well, I will say, I did the 24 hours of Hockenheim when they had that mental 24-hour series, official series in iRacing. Hockenheim was there. We were in the LMP2. If you hit the curb slightly wrong, the sausage curb going into turn 1, your engine just blew up. So I'm not sure if that's changed.
Hopefully they've put a bit bigger sumps on the cars, sump protections.
Yeah, because that was always a worry, was going into turn 1. If you try to cut T1 a bit too much and you hit the sausage curbs, you go flying, and you can't really do anything when your car's in the air. I have heard that these cars don't have air brakes, so, you know, unfortunately, you're at the mercy of aerodynamics to try and slow you down.
You're suddenly a plane.
Yeah. Which, to be fair, for the LMP2s, as Aiden Young takes a bit too much liberty there over T1, I would imagine.
Has he got a different livery on this week?
Yes.
He has,
yes, he does.
Not losing it. Yeah, he definitely has, because I took pictures of it the other week, so I know that's different.
Yeah, last week was the blue?
Yes.
If I remember.
Yeah, it was definitely light blue.
I can't remember what team it was, but there you go. Aiden Young repping a different team for this week. I wonder if he's going to do that every week. Just different livery every week. Why not?
Every week, yeah. Why not? I'll keep me looking out for him. The people in the chat were talking about car numbers, as you said earlier. You said about 23. People just said about 32 and 91 and 41. So a mix of numbers. I'm intrigued by why people have picked the numbers they have picked. So if you want to put your story on why you use what race number you use, that'd be interesting because it's always fascinating to see.
I'm pretty sure Fumblefellow, the reason why he's picked 32 is just purely because it was the inverse of 23.
Yeah,
and he's just trolling, but you know. Yeah, I am curious. Does Neil race the number 91? Is that why Neil said that? So
yeah, he does.
Probably makes sense. Probably same with Jesse and 41, I would imagine, as well. I will say, though, just while we're in qualifying, there's one name in the timing screens right now, and, Wes, I want to see if you can see where my head's going with this. Surprisingly far down.
Yeah, I know exactly who you're looking at. It's James, yeah?
Mm.
Yeah,
number 8, James Ebram.
Did he have a good week last time, even, did he?
No, not really. Yeah, don't really know what's going on with James this season. Whether or not he has less time to practice, or the car changes have meant that he hasn't necessarily got to grips with it yet, and same with setups as well.
Yeah,
but
might not have setups for it. Well, he's on 10th, but still, yeah. Even then,
you normally expect him to be top 4, top 5 at least. So he was last season, all of last season, I believe. Is Alessio Bernardini the highest I rating in the series at 7.6k? I think you'd be right with that one. I believe you'd be right with that.
yeah, I'd say so. Resting, there's a few 5,000. Oh, there's one.
There's a 6.9k. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, you've got to say it every time, right?
Yeah. just a cheeky nice. I was like, oh, I see what the nice is about there. Yeah.
If you see it, you see it, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of seeing it, you're not going to miss Leon in a car park, are you? With the nice gold ASR livery there. That is bright. That is bright.
It's on the verge of being bronze.
Yeah.
It's definitely gold, but it is on the verge of certain light being bronze.
Yeah, race it for 24 hours and see what colour it turns out.
Yeah, what colour? Brown. You're just saying it's brown.
The sheen will start wearing off and it will become less controversial. It will just become brown. But I will say, Wes, it's I mean, the IMSA series is it's amazing, isn't it? It's so cool to have all these cars on track. And, you know, the qualifying, do you really think it matters all too much in a 1 hour race?
In a 1 hour, yeah. If you'd say like a 3 or a 4 or something, then no. But at 1 hour, I think, yeah, you want to be ahead because it's easier to defend than overtake, I'd say. So I'd say, and then with the pit stops as well, you can react to people, and yeah, you want to be ahead rather than behind. And it's always good. I know turn 1, obviously the rolling start, but I would still prefer to be the front of the pack rather than mid pack.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I think it goes without saying that, especially on a circuit like Hockenheim, where turn 1 is just prey. I think that's fair to say. Turn 1 is just prey.
It's much better.
Yeah, I mean, turn 2. The thing with turn 2 is it's slow.
Yeah.
Which can cause some pile-ups. You know, look at Monza turn 1 as an example of a slow corner pile-up. But for the most part, I think turn 1 is going to either filter people out to be in single file by the time they get to turn 2.
Yeah.
Or it's going to cause so much chaos that we might have to bring out some form of yellow flag or possibly even red. So I'm not sure what the rules are on that, on yellows and reds and all
there's
the
the
rest
hairpin
of it,
as well. You got to get through the hairpin on that one.
Yeah,
There's a lot of cars.
Yeah, and they're all going to be close on lap 1 coming out of turn 3. Yeah. There is that. I did forget about the hairpin, I must admit. There's...
That's the danger zone, isn't it?
We could probably take a bet, actually, couldn't we?
Yeah,
How many
it's
people
1 or
do you
3.
How many people do you think are going to send it on the hairpin? You know, get your predictions in chat.
Right, it's at least 1 in each class, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, how many people do you think are going to absolutely dive up the inside of the hairpin? Where there is absolutely zero room, by the way.
Especially not the
As
hypercar, there's not going to be any.
LMP2 has finished, or rather will have in a second, finished their last flying laps, and we will move on to the hypercars, the BMW M8 hybrids, the LMDH. And look at who's joining us after saying that he wasn't going to be here and being replaced with, a well-known Italian driver. Look at who's here. Kevin Stam. He's actually driving, which is surprising, I think.
I thought you were about to say it's a shame, isn't it? But, yeah.
Would I ever say that?
He's looking forward to this one. He was he's intrigued by his pace in the practice. He was higher than he thought he was going to be. At first, he was like, "Oh, I'm a bit far off," and then everybody else started putting their lap times in, and they didn't beat him, and he was a bit surprised. So he's actually looking good for today, I'd say. I can't remember where he finished last week, but I think it was near the top end of the top 5. So he'll be looking to try and do the same again. He's definitely in the top 10 in the standings, so he's definitely more towards. It's intriguing that there's quite a few of them close together here as they all warm up their tyres, and they're not spread out too much. I wonder if they will in the last turn, almost like Formula 1. Do they all slowly slow down a little bit here?
I would probably imagine not, because the slipstream in the LMDH is worth like about 500 seconds, it feels like.
And they all want it.
They do all want it, which is why whoever it is that's ahead of Kevin Stam right now, as Kevin is just going to immediately pull off.
Yeah, there's a curb there.
Yeah, that's lap 1 done for Kevin. And we'll get back on board with David van der Waals
Well, that
or
was
Tom instead.
that was
actually.
bright. David's car was bright.
That seemed like the GSR livery that I've been noticing on a few people, as Tom is wrapping that gorgeous altitude livery, by the way. I don't know what it is about that altitude livery, but I saw it last season. I think it was... Who is it? Was it Ryan last season who ran it on the Fezzer? Is that a name I'm remembering correctly?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, Ryan or Adam.
Yeah, Adam, definitely. And then I've seen it on a... Who's running it this season in GT3? There's a GT3 driver who's running it. But I can't remember who off the top of my head. But it looks gorgeous on that, and it's not a Fezzer. And then you've got the LMDH altitude carb, which, again, looks absolutely gorgeous. And in terms of lap time difference between P2 and Hypercar around here, I don't know. I'm not expecting it to be all too different, if I'm honest. The hybrid is going to make a difference out of the hairpins and the slow speed stuff. But for the most part, I would imagine turn 1, you're quicker in a hypercar, but apart from that...
How about hairpin, I guess, yeah.
I don't think the LMP2s really are that far off anywhere else. Top speed, maybe. But we'll have to wait and see. Definitely in terms of qualifying lap times, they're going to be a few seconds slower. Because obviously the hypercars can just give absolutely everything, can't they? You know, they only have to do 1 lap, possibly 2. What we noticed last week was actually a lot of people setting faster second laps, significantly faster second laps than they did first laps. So potentially that will be something that people do. Their first lap won't be like a full push lap, but their second lap will be absolutely everything. I'm going to gun it on quali deploy mode and just go absolutely mental. And you know, compared to the LMP2s, the LMDHs definitely seem faster, don't they?
They look it. They definitely look faster. They look mean. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, their second laps are seeming to be always a lot quicker in the hypercars. As this is Jeremy in the undercut team, as I think that's Lorenzo goes pole for now. Maybe
Yep.
it might not be, but is it? It was Lorenzo. Yep. So Lisso Bernardi's on one as well. But sure, here come. So yeah, they're not. Are they on their first or they're on their second? They're on their seconds as well because they're on lap 3, so they have almost. Not sure if they on purposely cut on lap 1, not just to not even put a time on the board, but yeah, lap 2 is always way quicker. So we'll see them as they all got a long time, 10 minutes to all put some times in. As it's a little bit deep. That's not really an apex there, but for P10 at the moment.
Now, one thing I would like to see if we can catch anyone just on the start of their lap, for example, Juanto here, if he's going for another lap, is actually getting an onboard from
He's
cockpit
not.
view,
He's not.
but he's not, unfortunately. Because it would be nice to see, like, what does the hypercar driver actually see from here? Because they're very low to the ground, you know? And this circuit doesn't have a lot of elevation change, but I feel like because a lot of the corners around here are blind.
A lot of understeer, I'm noticing from Brian here.
Well, keep in mind, obviously, when you're on the hybrid, you're four-wheel drive, aren't you? So anytime you're on the hybrid, you're four-wheel drive instead of rear-wheel drive. They still have that ability to run hybrid on the front axle as well as the rear axle. I believe it's not as much on the front axle as it used to be, so there is definitely a rearward bias to the hybrid, but yeah, turn 1, you want to avoid that sausage curb on the inside for all you can, because otherwise you end up very much in a tree somewhere with the speed that you'll take off that sausage curb at. And then this here is where I'd expect a lot of the passing to be done, as car number 28 is not permitted to start the race. That is
Costa.
Now, I'm unsure as to why. Maybe
That'll
race control can give us
the
107% rule?
I think it's 106 this season. If I'm not wrong, I feel like I've seen that somewhere in a file somewhere. I think it's 106. I will check the Discord quick, but I'm pretty certain it's 100. And
so yeah, potentially if one of the race control people can let us know as to the reasoning behind that, that would be great, so we can inform the people. But I will say, the LMDH, it definitely seems like, compared to what the LMP1s used to be and what the LMP2s were, it definitely feels like you have to muscle the LMDHs around here, as you can see. Like, the car does not seem planted everywhere, as you would probably expect, as that was Brian just finishing his lap for a 125.4, outside of 105%. Was the reasoning behind that. So it's 105% rule rather than the 107% rule, which I don't feel like is particularly harsh, if we're being honest. I feel like most people should be able to hit that. So, bit of a shame that we've seen that from Costa, especially in GT3. But hey, sometimes it happens, you know? But yeah.
oh, that's a moment. Oh, that's 2 moments, and that's round. That's not easy to catch. Does it any wars? Yeah, I'm just reading to see. It is 105, I believe, for this season. So yeah, so it was in the bracket for last season, but not this. So yeah, so that's unfortunate for Costa. To be fair, they're not slow in the GT3s. It is Ponta that he's trying to keep up with. You know what I mean? So he's got to be within 105% of him, and so I'm not sure how far off he was, but not enough.
Yeah, and again, a little bit unfortunate, but hey, sometimes it happens. You know, we have these rules in place not only to give better racing and closer racing, but also to, you know, keep a certain level of driver here in the leagues and actually racing. And I feel like for most people, those times, as we say, relatively achievable. There's no shame in obviously being outside of that. It just means, you know, got to do a bit more practice, and hopefully we'll see him back again soon. And you know, that's something that we always look at doing is, you know, people just getting involved and practicing, because ultimately that's a big thing. Uh, and you know, it's for me the hypercar series, the LMP2s and the GTs are all very much they're all very different driving styles as well. So what you might find is potentially you're quicker in a car that's potentially faster, but you're more up to speed in that because the driving style suits you better, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's one of those things. 5 minutes left in the session. If the hypercar's still to go, I think all of the hypercars have done a time, or is there one left to do one? I think they've all done one now.
Yeah, no, they should have all done one.
But
That's 12 hypercar drivers.
just a
And
note.
Alessio,
Yeah, he's lost.
yeah,
Yeah.
not as high up as I was expecting. Now,
Yeah.
he did do this last season. He did this thing last season. I think it was for the final round, where he started from the back and seeing if he can win. I don't know if he's done that again, but that will definitely be interesting to see a good old last to first challenge. As Alessio tends to like challenging himself in that way. Either that, or Hockenheim just isn't a track that suits him, which would surprise me, if I'm honest. He seems to go well at basically every circuit, truth be told. As one thing I also have noticed, by the way, is that we do have, I believe, the top three are Leo Racing drivers. And
They are, yes.
yeah, so Alessio's teammate, if you can call them that, because we know that Leo Racing drivers don't really treat themselves as teammates. They just kind of drive, and if, you know, one driver is faster than another, they will fight. And they won't just do team orders and give anybody any free positions. But yeah, Alessio Bernardini, I'm surprised is not up there with his teammates, but maybe this lap will be the one that gets him there, and indeed it does. It does get him 1/10 off. So we now have a Leo Racing 1, 2, 3, and 4. Obviously, all well and good seeing how you can do over one lap pace, but if it took Alessio that long to get a lap in, is he going to be able to maintain it for the entire hour? I think that's the big question.
Yeah, as a team, they are nearly a second ahead of everybody else. Looking at that, that is which Leo wants to win, basically. And luckily for us, they're not going to just sit behind each other and let the other one go. They will race, and they do race each other very hard. So it is brilliant to see. But yeah, let's go. So we're in for a good race here between the four Leo guys and anybody else that can just grab onto the back of them. It should be good, and as well as the LP2s were great racing last week and 2 weeks ago, and the GT3s look extremely close and a very good field, so it should be good today. Hockenheim, not the biggest circuit in the world, so this traffic situation, especially here in the stadium section, could be crucial for the race. And getting through the traffic might be it could easily spice. It's almost like rain. It's going to easily spice something up. Something could go horribly wrong for one of the leaders in some back traffic. So you never know. Qualifying, though, does matter a little bit, and they're coming to the end. We've got a minute left to go, and everybody's seeming to be yellow. So I wonder if they're all just recharging their batteries for one last go.
mean, you would imagine so, wouldn't you? Tom has to find 5/10 and the rest to get himself up there and put himself in between the Leo guys. Definitely, Tom Dadswell is a driver who I would expect to see him cling on to the Leo guys for the first few laps. If traffic goes his way, maybe he can get involved in the fight as well. Pit strategy could play a factor. It is a, I believe, mandatory 2-stop now. I don't think anybody with the fuel restrictions we have can actually make it all the way on 1 tank of fuel, but we'll have to see whether or not anyone will try it. I mean, the LMDHs have the potential to, because they can use that hybrid as a way of saving fuel, obviously. Yeah, the hybrid can make the car faster, and if you're going faster without using any more energy to do it, like petrol energy, then you can save fuel, right? That's kind of how that works. Because you're going to be doing more laps quicker. I do wonder, though, whether or not that's actually going to... whether or not anyone is going to attempt the 1-stop and save pretty much from lap 1. You would imagine the only people really able to do it would be the people out near the front, or the people right at the back of their respective fields. You wouldn't imagine anyone in the mid-pack to try it, right?
Who do we see try it last weekend succeed? Was it? We haven't got Izzo. I've noticed we've been missing one of the Leo racing team. We're missing Alessandro Izzo. Isn't here. He did the 1-stop at Spa, which was incredible. I think he ran out of fuel, didn't he, on the line? He missed out of podium because he ran out of fuel on the line, did he not?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Filio got it, I believe. Got the podium. Yeah, I think that's how that went down. Somebody else did a 1-stop in the GT3s. But yeah, so Izzo's not here, so maybe, I don't know, anyone in the... They would have worked it out. They would have had enough practice, they would have worked it out. Everyone by now in qualifying here knows their strategies, whether they're 1-stopping or 2-stopping. Unless something goes drastic wrong in turn 1, or correct. Maybe they do have a separate plan. But yeah, I've been intrigued. I think the Leo team, we know that they do different strategies, so one of them might go for a 1-stop if they feel it's quicker and they need to get out of some sort of traffic. But yeah, it's good. Should be good. This could be good field. They will be respectful to turn 1. It's the hairpin, which is the big concern, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, turn 1 serves as nothing more than just a let's bring everyone super close together and pinch. That way, you're all single file out of turn 1 and going into turn 2. So hopefully, turn 2, you'll see more people getting involved as
God,
that
is terrifying.
That's
Oh, you got hypercars overtaking people before during the pit lane and pit line. It's just crikey, that's scary.
So this is what we'll see in the race. For those of you who are new,
a spinning hypercar. Nice save.
As yeah, I mean all the car classes are out on track right now, and every single one of them wants to get in a couple of laps clearly in the warm-up and make sure they've got their race setups loaded. As yeah, I mean, we're finally seeing the difference, I think, between all the different car classes. As going into the hairpin, we're wondering whether or not anybody was going to make contact there. As we see all 3 car classes. My God, I don't know what happened to that LMDH, but hopefully they're okay. This is, yeah, multi-class racing at its finest.
How many laps is it going to take to get to this stage of the race? You know, it's going to...
Well, it took the first round of pit stops, I believe, for everyone, for it to get like this in the race last time out. But Spa is a lot bigger of a track, isn't it? So,
not long at all, then.
Yeah, we're probably expecting like 15 minutes.
God, it's close in the stadium section as well. That is where some drama is going to be tonight.
I mean, I would not want to be any of the car classes in this race, if I'm honest. They're all trying to overtake each other and make sure that everyone can get through everything fine. And yeah, it's going to be rough. It is going to be rough. Especially considering We noticed last week as well, by the way, a lot of the LMDHs were locking up into the braking zones. Hopefully, that's less of an issue this week.
Oh, look at that! Look at that! The cars are on the screen, the bottom of the screen. Look at that! Oh, I've been waiting for this since qualifier. 45 minutes I've been sitting there waiting for that just to pop up. Look at it. That little graphic there is just a dream come true for me. Thank you, Gerald. And there's a spinning hypercar just
MDH,
waiting. Yeah, this. I always got to say it's like LMP2, but I know here it's called the hypercar. So I'm like, oh, it's this instead. But yeah, this is great. This, there's just so many. It's going to be incredible. This race is going to be insane. Nearly every car seems to be out on circuit at the moment, which is crazy. And yeah, this is going to be good. I remember doing a. Oh, good God!
Not sure what happened there, but between it was that was the Helsim number 23 and one of the LMDHs coming together. I believe maybe a spin out of the corner, and then, yep, unfortunately, just crashes everywhere. And I feel like this is going to be an ongoing theme, is the LMP2s and the LMDHs can't really overtake each other until they get to a straight, and then the GT3s are just going to exist to cause more chaos.
Yeah, moving chicanes. That's what they are. They're moving chicanes. I did a 24-hour race here in Hockenheim a couple of years back. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I did it in GTE, if I'm right off the top of my head. It was horrible. But I very much enjoyed this track for the. So it's good. It's good for overtaking multi-class. If you're patient, it does work really well. And I didn't get involved in any incidents of any other car classes. But you know, if there's a faster car behind you, like an LMP2 or whatever, in that stadium section, you've got to be on your toes, because they could just put their nose in. You got to hope they don't, but they might.
Is this the session they let the public drive? It looks that way, doesn't it?
That's a fantastic comment.
Bring what you brought, and drive it out on track. It's there is a lot of cars on track right now, and I love the warm-up sessions because we get a preview of what the race is going to look like when we get to that sort of midway point. And it always is. Every single week, it always is just absolute chaos. As we see LMP2s diving up the insides of GT3s and off. I will say, at one point, I reckon we're going to get some form of LMDH battle that splits a GT3 and an LMP2, and it's going to be carnage because we're going to see people going full wide at some point. The action we're seeing on track apparently reminds Neil of the M25. I'm pretty sure these guys travel a lot faster than you would on the M25, but yeah, no, I can see that. Gridlock. See, this is what they need to do to fix the M25. Make it a racetrack. Remove the limits. Let people go as fast as they want. That'll fix the traffic problem, right?
Isn't that the Autobahn?
Yeah, basically.
Because there's so many cars and so many classes, we've decided that we should not only be joined by another driver, another talker of the speaking world. Biggles, you there?
Yes, check 1 2.
Hello. So you've made it to Germany as well, not America. Well done.
Yeah, got delayed in there a little bit, checking my passport. They didn't like the kangaroos and emus and stuff like that on the front end. But it's going to be busy. Obviously, you guys are doing a great job in the casting box. I was running around and trying to give you some sort of pit lane report of some of that. But it's going to be very busy, isn't it, with 46 cars and all those different classes. And looking forward to this.
It's, yeah. Well, Biggles, you mentioned that there are a lot of cars out on track, and unfortunately what that does mean is that for us who may not have supercomputers,
He does, I don't.
The problem we have is that, iRacing is just simply too much of a sim, for us mere mortals to handle this many cars out on track. It's too epic. That's the thing. As the LMDHs get ready to get green, as we are led by Lorenzo Castellani, the number 55, who does go green immediately out of the final corner, and the racing guys are gone. This is going to be a 1, 2, 3, 4 all single file going into turn 1. Lots of people going wide. Surprised no one picked up a slowdown yet, as indeed exactly what I said was going to happen happened into turn 1. Everybody just went single file. There is no way really you can battle with that. And here we go for the LMP2 starts. If anybody wants to keep an eye on what's happening in the LMDHs as well, give a brief rundown of that as we get going green. And already there is some action in LMP2. Everyone makes it through okay, but there is still battling going into the hairpin. We're going to see whether or not there's any moves being made, but the GT3 start has already started as well, and the GT3s led by Fabio Ponta did wait for an awfully long time out of the corner, gives each other a nice little bit of a run down into turn 1, where Leo Racing goes side by side and make it through perfectly clean. I believe everyone else is also going side by side into turn 1, but in GT3 it's all perfectly fine. Going into the hairpin, we're going to see whether or not anybody has made any moves. LMP2s look to be pretty clean for the most part.
You spoke too soon. There was a bit of a crash, I think, of Sebastian and Andy, somewhere around there. We'll have a look at that in a second.
I was going to say,
there it is.
to keep track of absolutely everything, but
just a little bit of contact into the hairpin. It's not too bad, actually. It's all good to go.
Oh, nice. So, yeah, relatively clean start, considering the amount of people.
Oh, GT3's going crazy.
Yeah, this was the one that maybe wasn't going to be so clean, we would expect, as the GT3s. They really love a good dive bomb. And going into the hairpin, this will be Luigi Naspolino defending from... Is that the No Limits car of... Apex was missed. And... Looks like it was okay for those two. I think it was the cars behind that had more of an issue as a result of the Apex being missed there. We are on board now with Gutierrez. I'm just going to see what happens here. I believe Alvaro is the black and gold Lamborghini. Does get hit around by the Bimmer. Unfortunately, nowhere really for Alvaro to go. But back on board with the LMDH battle, and
So
yeah,
dropped it on
I was
the
going to
break.
say. So aside from, would that have just been a spin by herself?
Yeah, on by herself on the brakes, hits the wall, does a 360 and keeps going.
But aside from that, looking pretty clean in LMDH so far. Matteo trying to fight his way past Roberto, and already race control starting to get through.
The hypercars are already lapping some of the GTs. Already. We're lap 2, 3, give or take.
That is absolutely crazy speeds from hypercar people, as yeah, I mean the lap times are just that different, aren't they? And when you're trying to get this gap between the classes, what you can end up introducing is this problem where hypercars are now very much on the back of the GT3s much earlier than you'd probably expect them to be if you just sort of let them roll on and be on the back of the P2s. Speaking of P2s, Sebastian Van den Heuvel coming out of turn 4. He's going to try and maybe make a move here on Paolo into the hairpin. Car number 88 is currently on the outside of the hairpin, which is not really what
Gerard, if you can go on and see the incident with Aliso Bernardi in the hypercar class.
Oh dear, what happened with Alacio?
Not how you want to start that. It will. Here it is. This is exactly it.
Is it what I'm expecting? GT3 traffic in the hairpin and nowhere to go.
It's worse than you think.
Oh, jeez. The GT3 lost it. How did the GT3 lose it?
I feel like he may have been hit by a hypercar going into the corner.
Eesh, that's not good. Well, Tom Dadswell, here we are, on board with him. And there is a GT3 up ahead. Is this the GT3 that got hit? It is, yeah. That almost looks like net-coded contact, unfortunately, on the GT3. I mean, it was a little bit late, maybe, from the GT3 to realise that the LMDH was there. And speaking of LMDHs, they are currently battling their way through the LMP2 traffic. And I believe not only did Paulo Lopez, I should say, lose the position to... who was it? He was battling Sebastian. He also lost the position to James. So James has actually made some pretty good progress up the field. I believe Robin actually is one of the highest gainers in LMP2 at the moment, just a +3 gain at the moment, which, you know, +3, not too bad off the start. As we are
busy for those stewarding teams at the moment, as you can see. 38, 88, 888, 26, and a post-race penalty for the car number 26. It's getting very busy out there, as you can see on that track map. They're starting to all pack up, almost a whole sector full of cars right now, at least, probably even to 2 sectors.
I think that's is that possibly from an incident we didn't see with Ricardo? I feel like that is, because Ricardo is still in the pits from an incident, so that may have been one we haven't seen.
I'm trying to find car number 26, and I can't see it.
42nd in the pits.
Is in the pit lane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I couldn't see it. All the way at the bottom of the timing.
Yeah, you got to scroll down for that one.
Just to confirm, if everybody out there is a fast repairs or not, it doesn't look like it's 2 minutes of change already in that pit stop for Ricardo.
I don't believe there is. I wonder if we can maybe get some confirmation as Sophia does make her way past one of the, I believe that's LMP2 cars.
I think there is. I think there's one, because Sophia locked the brakes, hit the wall, and did a full 360. I think she managed to make it to the pit lane, and that's why she's coming back through the field, because she was in the pit lane, pit box for 3.9 seconds. So I think she went in, did a fast repair, and now she's having to come back through the LMP2 grid. So I think you get one.
So, ooh, that was LMP2 spinning there. Was that trying to avoid Sophia? You would imagine? Well, there's Sophia on the outside. Does dive, I believe. Oh no, makes the move done in the braking, actually. Comes back onto the racing line. Locks up, tries to avoid, and yeah, unfortunately. Maybe wasn't expecting the LMDH to slow down quite that fast, as Sophia is already back off again. Yeah, back off, back on. Sophia still traveling on in the VR racing.
And Connor Cribb also had a little bit, couldn't get the brake pedal stuck in time. Or got stuck and just had a little bit of a tap on the back of one of the other LMP cars, I thought, and got spun around, lost a few places. Currently running down in 22nd place, which is about, what are you looking at, about 9th or 10th or something for that class?
If we said 20, what position was that? Sorry, again?
Second for the
22nd
driver.
So yeah, you'd be looking at 10th in class for that. 12 LMDHs and then 15 LMP2s. So a lot of LMP2s, which is nice to see. It's a really, really good competitive car class. So really nice to see all those drivers out. And, you know, the carnage has very much been a factor so far. 8 minutes in, by the way. So still another 52 minutes, well, 51 minutes left of this race. And, I mean, everything's just broken loose, hasn't it? It's just absolutely crazy. Everything is so hard to keep track of. And it feels like we're finally getting to some normality here where the classes aren't tangling amongst themselves and they can finally start racing. And then I would imagine within the next sort of 3-4 laps, the LMDHs will be coming back through again. So we won't have long before we start seeing the multi-class action kick off, as we have a really nice battle, though, between Hakon Grebstad and Alessandro. And I believe both of them actually gained off the start because of Luigi's... Did Luigi make a mistake? Did we see what happened to Luigi off the start?
He went deep.
Yeah, that was at the hairpin, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then, unfortunately, couldn't retain the position. So, move on for Alessandro. Does go up the inside. Is the Ferrari going to be able to fight back? A little bit of contact there on the rear, but hopefully no damage. As the LMDH He's starting to fight his way through. That is Alessio Bernardini. Obviously part of the Leo team, so maybe giving a bit more room to the Leo GT3s than the Altitude and various other GT3s. You know, being similar teammates, you would expect them to maybe have a bit more respect and racing room together.
Daniel, the 601 car and the hypercar had got past Kevin Stam, so he's moved his way up into P4 behind the domination currently of the Italians in first, second, and third. And you can see their liveries are all pretty much lapping pretty close to each other. But that's a good move there from Daniel, and then you got Kevin and Tom just down the road there. So making his way up 3 positions so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, Daniel is a driver who maybe not the best in terms of qualifying, but race pace, I mean, he's proven he's got it. So let's see whether or not he can continue up the road, and maybe start battling against what we could say has been a pretty dominant Leo Racing team so far this season. The Leo Racing guys, all first, second, third, normally fourth as well, when Bernardini seems to be up there, but maybe not the best track for Alessio, as clearly his teammates have found something that he hasn't with this car. The car naturally quite wide, so avoiding the sausage curbs maybe a little bit harder than you would expect. As Daniel is still being hunted by Kevin, and I'm not sure if Kevin is going to be able to make any moves, and definitely not going to be able to do it going that wide out of T1. Connor Gibb maybe making another move here, gaining another position, going up to P9 to avoid. That was incredibly close. Manages to slow the car down just in time, but jeez, the LMP2's battling ever close, ever hard. I mean, I feel sorry for Aiden Young right now, seeing that in his mirrors. Again, all the way back through the GT3 traffic, Paulo Lopez having to try and not only keep an eye on the GT3 traffic, but also Sebastian Van Den Heuvel behind him, and it isn't the easiest thing in the world. Sebastian Van Den Heuvel having to do the same thing with, I believe that's Robin Dumal as well, so all these LMP2 drivers using the traffic to the best of their advantage, and maybe we'll see a move here into turn 1. No, I believe Robin backs out of it, and you would imagine wisely so, because turn 1 is not really the place you want to be making a move. As I believe the LMDHs are already starting to get involved again with this battle. And, you know, the crazy thing is, when we look at the battles between all of the LMDHs and the LMP2s, like the interclass battles, you can guarantee that partway through your interclass battle, you're going to meet a slower class or a faster class that's going to interrupt and cause that battle to be put on hold for a few laps. Now, at what point do you reckon the drivers actually start to plan for that, you know, and start thinking, right, where am I going to catch the next bit of traffic, and can I use the traffic in a way that actually helps me to battle the people who I'm on? As Tom goes up the inside of Kevin Stam and makes the move pretty comfortably. Kevin not really able to push back and attack on the undercut. As we do have a replay here.
Yeah, just scrolling through a lot of... Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, wondering what happens to Jakob, and then I see an LMP2 start coming into the mix, and all of a sudden I'm wondering whether or not the same thing happens here that happens a lot of times, but no contact was made, so maybe it was just, yeah, just too slow.
A lot of cars are going off track in the hairpin, no doubt, because the different classes trying to get out of the way of some of the faster cars, and it's triggering some sort of accident reports and things like that for us to kind of look at, so... That's also what's happening. That hairpin's just
LMP2 action here. James Ebram is not having the greatest of times, having to avoid some GT3s, locks up the brakes, goes a little bit deep, then has to avoid another in-class battle, as we're going to start getting to 2 class battles side by side. The GT3s battling, the LMDHs in front of them also battling. The GT3s not really affected by it, thankfully, and the battle is still on here. This is DRS Esport versus, I believe, that is Brody Maynard for ASR. So we've got the home, well, we say the home crowd for the commentators at least, versus DRS Esports. And it looks like advantage Brody so far at Hockenheim, as again, that's Matteo starting to get involved with an LMP2, literally just trying to make his way through the circuit, and unfortunately he's just catching the GTs in all the wrong places. As we start seeing Hakon Grebstad. And the LMP2's trying to make his way through, not expecting Hakon to be quite that slow on the apex, you'd imagine. And the LMP2's will now just dive around the outside and maybe cut up the inside of their hairpin as well. Maybe gets there before the hairpin, actually, which will be nice for them. Lots of alternate lines here for the GTs and the LMP2's, so interesting to see how that will all play a factor in how they overtake each other. Obviously, the LMP2s normally just really want to just go around the outside of any high-speed corner and make it nice and easy on themselves, as the LMDHs going into the corners. We're going to wonder whether or not anybody's going to have any advantage. Kevin Stam currently wants Tom really to be held up so he can start attacking and battling once again, but it doesn't seem like anything happened between the two. Very close side-by-side action here in every single car class, and again, Biggles, you mentioned it before, how there seem to be a lot of cars on the same sector, and what, seemingly 6, 7, 8 laps later, same thing is happening.
Yeah, and well, and Andrea as well too, currently running in P3. I'm not going to try to pronounce the surname, but get a bit of a tap up the rear end of the teammate in the number 3 car. That's and cost a little bit of time, not a lot. We've seen that in that braking point, but now they're stuck in a lot of thick traffic and trying to make their way back up to continue their domination up there. And Daniel's still down the road there by a little bit of time, 8 seconds and change, you see. But we don't know about those pit stops, do we, for the supercars as well?
So was that Alessio? Oh, Roberto in LMP2 has come in for his first pit stop. So Roberto clearly going for a 2-stop at that point, right? You would imagine so, pitting just before the 20-minute mark. You would imagine he's going for a 2-stop and just hoping the fuel lasts. Normally, though, you would expect people to be pitting between the 20th minute and 25th minute for their first stop, and then second trying to go as long as they can, so it's just a splash and dash at the end. But maybe with the amount of traffic that's going on, potentially all you want to do is take your pit stop as early as you can and get yourself some clean air for a few laps.
I just watched a lovely fight happen between Stefan and I believe it's Brody, and it was a lovely switch back up the hairpin. Stefan went up the inside. Brody thought, okay, it's fine. Just switched back up the inside of him. Don't worry about it. Lovely. Absolutely.
And here we are. On screen, we'll see exactly what you meant, as Stefan tries to go up the inside, a little bit too late on the brakes, and Brody immediately straight back on him. Going to be a drag race down to the fast kink, and it looks as though Stefan was able to hold on to it. A little bit of LMDH intervention forces Stefan out wide, and that enables Brody to get back through. So yeah, I mean, the fight helped by the LMDH to bring Brody back in. If it wasn't for the LMDH, I would imagine Stefan does start running away with it, but I believe Stefan did actually get back through. As on board with Jeremy here, we're going to see what happens. Apparently, there is some action here, maybe a crash, and yeah, unfortunately, not expecting the LMDH in front to be particularly slow, and a little bit of a tap on the rear for good measure. As already we've got some LMDH action here, lots of cars all getting held up by the GT3, and that does enable João Paulo to go through past Lorenzo Castellani. So we have a change for the lead here in LMDH, here in your hypercar class for our IMSA series, round number 2 at Hockenheim. And what that's enabled is Andrea to also get involved. I believe Frasinetti is how you pronounce the last name for that one, Biggles. Though I've got it wrong before, so who knows?
It ends with an I, put it that way. It's, if you're one of those Italian drivers, yeah. But they're all bunched up together, which is quite good. There's like a bit of a gap, but now just navigating all that traffic's like walking in a minefield at the moment in this race. What are we looking at still? About 40 minutes to go of this minefield in Germany.
Yeah. It is absolutely mental so far, the racing here in IMSA. And for those of you who are new, feel free to follow along and subscribe and like all the good stuff.
Oh, good
I'm not
God.
sure.
Go
Not sure
watch
what
Andy
this is
Tapman.
but
Andy Tapman versus Leon. Yeah, Andy Tapman versus Leon there. Not only are they in the same livery, so it's a little confusing, but honestly, they were proper racing hardcore, like proper teammates going in. Here we go. A little bit of a movement, and then watch this. Locks it all up. Doesn't hit Kevin. I thought he was about to take out the boss while battling. I thought ASR was all about to implode at the hairpin. Oh.
All the Leo drivers in for their pit stops, by the way. All of them at the same time. That is Lorenzo Castellani, that is João Paulo Cristini, and I believe Andrea Frasinetti, all in at the same time, all one pit box after the other as well. So that's nice to see.
That's tricky sometimes too, because you've got to spot your pit stop right on the marker. They're all right up at the front there, but you know what it's like? You got to see your lollipop person.
Yeah.
Pull into you so you're not losing too much time, especially when you're on the same livery as they're coming out right now.
And already, I believe was that Alessio Bernardini who actually takes the advantage and pit on lap 3 and is now ahead of his teammates. But João Paulo, I believe, was the one who came out ahead in the pit stops between the other 3 Leo Racing drivers. But Alessio Bernardini manages to actually gain quite a few positions now.
And now they're all together on track almost. Alessio's just a little bit up the road, but now you got 4 these Italian manufacturers to watch on track.
That he only did a 5.5 second bop compared to them doing 17.5, so he probably didn't fuel.
Fast repair, you would imagine.
What I'd guess.
Yeah, as well Sophia as well. That was a fast repair. You're right.
So, yeah, we have a couple of people already using their fast repairs. Surprised that I believe Ricardo, car number 26, has actually come back into the pit stops for a second time, by the way, and done a 4.9 second stop. So I'm imagining a fast repair being used finally from him. Maybe didn't fix all the damage, remembered that there was a fast repair and proceeded to use it, potentially. So that'll be interesting to see where Ricardo can come out later on. Currently quite a bit off the next GT3 though, so I think potentially maybe too late to do anything now. But who knows?
It's lovely. Door to door with Sophia and Tom there for the last corner, and now the first one as well. Oh, they've done it. Oh, they're still door banging. They're door banging in hypercars. That's brilliant.
Now, Wes, I know you're a touring car man. That's your pride and joy. I'm pretty sure there's more door banging in that one corner than we've seen from a lot of the touring car races.
Yeah, there was a lot there. Sophia made a mistake in the Vettel corner and then allowed Tom to come around the outside. They stayed side by side for the last 2 corners and the first one. Absolutely lovely width given by the both of them. Door banging as they went along. And then, it's a mistake from Tom. Gone deep. They're going to go side by side again, maybe. Does Sophia get there? Probably not. But yeah, it was brilliant. No damage, I think, done at all. That is what you want from racing. Nice side-by-side, door banging, but quite respectful. And yeah, that's cool. It's good to see that the hypercar can take a good bang to the door and continue.
We do have our LMP2 drivers coming into the pits as well. We did just hear an update on that one. Dylan van der Lands, I believe, would have been one of the first people to come into the pits, or maybe Vessel. And just to answer one of the viewers' questions, LMDH all using the yellow-black livery in the same team, the Leo Racing team. Yes, they are all the same team. Alessio Bernardini, Lorenzo Castellani, Andrea Frasinetti, and Juan Paolo are all in the same team, top 4 currently in LMDH, and they are all very quick in their own right. I believe they've split themselves, though, this season. I believe Lorenzo and Juan Paolo are running together as one Leo Racing team. And I believe Andrea and Alessio are racing as a separate Leo Racing, subsidiary. So, be interesting to see what happens as GT3s are racing each other into the pit lane here.
They were, weren't they?
Brody almost hit into the back of Stefan going into the pit lane. That's I mean, I know you want to make time up, and doing it in the pit lane will be the best way to do it, but jeez, everyone is trying to find every inch of room on this track, apparently.
The top 2 from the GT3s didn't pit, interestingly. Everybody else has in the GT3 field, but the top 2.
That'll be interesting to see what happens here, as Alessandro does get past a back marker there. Is actually on track versus Hakon Grebstad, who I believe both these drivers have pit and come out, so this is the theoretical battle for the lead, if I'm not mistaken. Depends on where Fabio Ponta comes out, I suppose.
Yeah, it would depend, but I think Fabio should be. Depends what strategy they're doing now, but yeah, it was definitely a battle for at least 3rd on the circuit.
You wonder if Fabio's actually trying for the 1-stop, and this is why they're not pitting yet. They've got another 3.5 minutes if they want to make it there.
Well, yeah, remember 2 weeks ago we noted that obviously he managed to have to do an extra lap because when he got lapped by the hypercar. But he could try and time it this week to make sure that he doesn't have to do an extra lap, which is always crucial for the fuel.
He is in the pits. So, unfortunately,
That's not going to happen.
Won't find out, as Brian does get past Paulo Lopez, still battling with another LMDH in class, though, so that is the battle for P7 at the moment. This is Brian and Jeremy battling. I believe Tom Dadswell 5 seconds up the road from this battle, so I don't think these guys are able to catch P6 yet, but hey, maybe they could work together and we can see what happens. I mean, maybe Brian probably won't do it if Brian and Tom are in the same team, because why would you give someone else a chance to catch up to your teammate? That's probably not the best idea. But regardless, Brian wants to be further up the field than he is currently, you'd imagine, and doing a good job so far in the LMDH, though. Making it clean and picking up a few places. He's gained 3 so far, as is going on here into
Kevin, no!
Oh, jeez, I mean, Dylan van der Lands and Mark Hutchinson battling in LMP2 for your overall lead in LMP2.
Yeah.
And Kevin Stam in the LMDH should be quicker than these guys, but didn't seem to make anything happen, as in the background is just absolute chaos. We'll ignore that bit for now, trying to see whether or not Kevin Stam does get through, as Vessel Bekema and James Ebram are all battling here for P3.
Is he going? Is he going?
Does go up the inside. Vessel gives him the room, fair enough. And Vessel will lose out on the position because of it. So, Vessel, I would have said Vessel could have closed the door there, to be fair. And probably should have, if I'm being honest, as Mark Hutchinson trying his best to just survive, I think, through the LMP2, the LMDH traffic, as Daniel all over the sausage curb there on the exit down the drag strip going into the hairpin. Will Daniel make the move? No, he does hold off for now. And I believe Dylan van der Lands is trying to deal with Tom Dadswell behind him, so we'll have to wait and see the outcome of that one. As I will say, the LMP2 traffic... Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, there's a very close battle between Brian and Jeremy, P7 and P8 in the supercars. That's also brewed up very, very close, and they've got a bit of traffic to come up now. Sorry, apologies about that. I had my director fly in there next door with a helicopter, and it was really noisy.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely fine. I mean, Brian and Jeremy,
Oh,
potentially
good
the
God.
GT3
Good
traffic.
God. It's 3 wide into turn 1, all 3 classes! Oh, they survived. That is incredible. Sebastian
At
in the
some
middle.
point, I wonder if we can get a replay of that.
Oh.
All 3 classes into turn 1, but this is Sebastian Van den Hooval.
Sebastian, yeah, that was a bit crazy. But
So, Sebastian Van den Hooval, and who is he fighting there? Is that the
Connor,
420?
he was fighting Connor. Oh, hello.
And here's another replay. Sebastian Van den Hooval fighting with, I believe that's Robin, car number 5, though I could be wrong.
I think that's just after what's happened, I think.
Yeah, so that's a move for Sebastian Van den Hooval, making his way past Robin. As here we go.
Yeah, that's the aftermath of everything.
So that was after the craziness of turn 1, and you can see all 3 classes right there on your screen. We've got the LMDH, rewind time a little. Let's see what happens. So Sebastian Van den Hooval, if we can get on board with him going into turn 1, we'll see what happened. And, jeez, that's incredibly tight. And the LMDH, I feel sorry for, as the LMDH has to take the sausage curb to avoid everything. And the GT around the outside has to kind of be aware that this ain't going to be the easiest show on the road. Sebastian Van den Hooval does come into the pits. Is that his first pit stop? It is, isn't it? Or is this his second?
And a nice LMP brew in 14, 15th, and 16. James, Dan, the 2 Just drivers are really at it too for now on that to come a bit of traffic to at the moment. Let's see how they're going to navigate this. Yeah, James in P14 with the 2 cars very close behind.
Yeah, James, P14 currently. Oh, some GT3 carnage there, getting involved. That was, I mean, that almost looked like it was on James there. I didn't really see where the GT3 was. The LMDH trying to get past here as well between all of the LMP2 action. As I believe this is James and Dylan. This is your battle for P2 in LMP2. As I believe the car in front is another GT3. So we may see GT3 action and we may see 3 wide into turn 1. Hopefully not. And we don't, thankfully. But the LMDH tries to go up the inside of the GT3. The GT3 does manage to survive somehow. As the LMP2's behind. This is the No Limits cars. This is both Vessel Bekema and Ferran, I believe. Both battling each other, and I believe Vessel does win out in that fight. Oh, sorry, no, that's Vessel and Dylan, I should say. As further down the order.
You won't believe it. You won't believe it. They crashed. The second and third crashed. Sebastian. Oh, God. Wow.
That's a big crash. That was why he came into the pits, I would imagine.
Oh, that's him. That's him done after everything. That's unfortunate. Christie, P3 at the moment. Somehow still
they
P3.
come together, didn't they?
Pits
Come in the
already.
pit lane as well.
So why is he in the pits? Let's see if we can find
Must have got
out.
damage, I think.
As the camera is going absolutely crazy.
You say they race hard in Leo. Oh, that's a hard pill to swallow for the team. So he's at the pit.
Oh,
damage
there's also another accident. Look at that one in a second. That was Brian goes spinning around. Yeah, he got tons of accidents. That's collected one of the GT cars as well, I believe. Yeah, we'll get to have a look at that one in a minute as well. Oh, and he's fully bent his front steering wheel as well and cannot even get that car. Is going to get towed.
This will be the incident then with Brian. Let's see what happens. Going into the carousel, hits a GT3.
Oh, Paulo's involved too.
Hits. Yeah.
Oh no, who's that? Oh,
That was an LMDH. colliding with the LMDH, and that is, unfortunately, that rear tyre is going to be gone. That is broken rear suspension, and yeah, Brian, unfortunately...
Was that Aliso that hit him as well? Was it Aliso?
I
think it
wouldn't
might
be
have been.
surprised if he's in the pit lane right now.
Yeah, he is.
Alessio Bernardini not having the greatest of days, is he, Alessio? Normally up near
Flashing
the
his
front.
lights too, like in frustration. Probably a few in that right now.
There's a 5-second penalty to James as well. P2 in the NP2s at the moment for, I don't know what for, but he's got a 5-second post-race penalty, and car number 3 has as well, which is
Gianpaolo.
Which is probably for the incident where he spun as well, by the way, I think.
Yeah.
And that's what that's for.
Daniel Sedgley's tucked up right on the gearbox of Tom. That's a battle for P4 and P5 in the hypercar class.
Let's see whether or not Daniel's going to be able to make any moves. He does have the entire straight here, and then into the hairpin we go. Is Daniel going to show his nose? He does not. He just backs off and patiently waits his turn. I'm wondering whether or not potentially Daniel is going to try and use this as a way to save fuel in the slipstream. Maybe save a bit of battery too. Don't need to push the car as hard, obviously, when you're not trying to attack all the time. Maybe Tom is trying to use more battery to pull away as well. Obviously, you can change deploy modes much like F1 has with their deploy modes. The LMDH is similar. You do have your quali, attack, no deploy, and I believe balanced modes.
Looks like they got clear track almost for a little bit, almost a clear sector, but now they're coming up to a GT3 car.
As Robin Dumal does get past Aiden Young. I'm wondering if Aiden Young is going to be able to answer back, but very close going into the corner. Is Aiden Young. He's going to go up the inside. Is he going to give him the room on the outside? He does. Robin still trying to fight past. Does manage to get through before the drag strip. Perfect place for a battle to brew. We're going to see which one has the most power going into the stadium section, and it looks as though Robin finally gets that move done before the carousel, and then the final couple of corners which will round out the lap. And I believe from here, unfortunately, Aiden just has to kind of follow and hope that he can just cling on to the back as we are going here. Oh! Contact into T1 between Paulo Lopez and I believe that's Connor Gibb.
It is, yes.
The GT3 is not making it easy, and the No Limits car giving absolutely no limits in terms of track space either. So we're going to see potentially
by the name
it does anything. I really, really hope here that the GT3 just stays on his line and does not move, because those LMP2s were going up the inside whether or not Hakon liked it or not. And Hakon, by the way, surprisingly done well in the GT3 to fend off the Leo guys. And it's seemingly working so far. You know, Hakon currently P2, quite a few seconds ahead of P3, not really having to worry too much about anything else happening, as Paolo did show his nose but wasn't going to dive for Connor just yet.
So Aliso is out of the race. He was the one that we saw get collected in that chaos in the stadium section. He's out now. He was in the pits for over 2 minutes, but he's now left the race, so he's not going to fix the car. So our race winner from 2 weeks ago is out. We have a different winner today, but that's the big news.
I mean, with how the race was going for Alessio, you can't really blame him. Frustrating for sure. And we'll have to wait and see whether or not there's any sort of post-race thoughts from him. I would imagine just lots of words that we can't air on stream. Probably.
We can, I just have to that button.
Yeah.
The whole of the speech will be that, yeah.
Paul Lopez once again trying to get past Connor Gribb. So the anti-stall racing, I love that anti-stall livery there for the Portuguese driver in the 88, but he's got the No Limits racing up the road to deal with.
Yeah, and we know that Connor has been racing rather hard up to this point, so if Paolo wants to go for the move, he's going to have to give absolutely no room to Connor and fight him just as hard as Connor's going to fight back. And I believe that if they keep fighting that hard, potentially it enables Robin to get into the mix, but Robin is still quite a few seconds back, so you would imagine probably even if they do fight hard, it will be a couple of laps before any other interference gets in the way. But they do have GT3 traffic to worry about, of course. That will always spice things up, keep the
I want
battle
to say
close.
congratulations to Matteo. He managed to do a full 360 spin and nobody collected him. He managed to lock his brakes, stay there. Somebody had to go massively off and avoid him. I think it was off the top of my head, Carlos had to go completely off the road to avoid him. But everybody else, he managed to stay where he was in the middle of the circuit. No one hit him. He kept his brakes on, and people went like 3 wide past him and everything. But he kept his brakes on. It must have been quite scary because it was on the exit of a corner. But Matteo got away with it. Yes, exactly.
We are just about to see Matteo. Is he the LMP? Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to see Carlos have a big avoiding action, but everybody manages to miss him here.
No, here you go, Matteo. Ooh. Kind of just has to sit in the middle of the road and just kind of wait, I think, for people to filter through, keeping an eye on his relative, I'm sure. As Matteo does get himself back around, and nicely done, you would say, to avoid any carnage there. I was back on board. We switch to the battle for P9 in LMP. And Carlos, I believe, did he just get passed by Roberto? Did I see that right?
I think Carlos got passed by Andy. Carlos Fernandez. I'm not quite sure which Carlos you're referring to.
Yeah, I'm just seeing quite a close battle between Roberto.
I think he's just passed him. Yeah, he's just passed him. Yeah. The pit stops are getting involved as well, so it's making everything change a bit. Who's number 25 then? Who's only got another 5-second penalty in car 25? It's Andy.
Andy Tannen.
What did you do, Andy? I wonder.
Well, Andy, quite often is he not part of the stewards team? So. Bit of friendly fire going on.
Can't wait for a debate with that one later, but yeah, he is. So 5 seconds for something he did. I'm not sure if that was surely it's not earlier where he locked all of his brakes and went to the side of Leon.
Brian Lyons, I think the 92 cars has had a little bit of an off track. It hit the marbles and went around and has smacked into the fence, and he's had to tow back to pit lane.
The repairs in the pits. I've just seen that. So. Brian
that's horrible.
Jeez.
Oh, that's big. That'll be done. Yeah, that's ripped the rear left off, hasn't it?
Yeah, I'm surprised the wing didn't go with it, to be fair. That was... Yeah, it was quite surprising. As one thing I have also noticed, by the way, is Gianpaolo in LMDH has done his second pit stop. So Gianpaolo, thinking he can make it to the end here, he pit 7 laps ago, and potentially what that might mean is if he can find clear air, he can use it, gain a bit more time on the cars around him. I'm just going to try and see. Gianpaolo at the moment not lapping quicker than Lorenzo.
Leader's coming in.
Yeah, so that is Lorenzo.
Daniel boxed a little bit early too. Daniel Sagely as well, so he's going to be one to look at on these second pit stops there for the hypercars, and as well as Andrea goes in as the teammates generally have in the past.
Yeah, so that's both. Now, Kevin Stam just got passed by Tom Dadswell further up the field. Not sure what happened, but I believe Kevin Stam actually had to...
Yeah, he's gone off the road.
Go off the road, so... I mean, we'll see. So you see Tom in the background there.
Oh!
Same sort of situation that happened to Brian. So, interesting.
Yeah, they hit the marbles right there on the outside. And it's just Kevin luckily avoids the fence that time around, but it's catching him off.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, this is one thing that I have noticed is that the one thing that the LMDH is very sensitive of is doing any sort of steering when near grass. Because if you touch the grass even slightly while you're steering in the LMDH, the car will just snap. Like, you just have no control over where you go after that. It seems like maybe it was iRacing's way of combating what happened at the Spa 24, and all of the controversy that happened there.
Yeah, that one. I remember that.
And we all chuckled at that as well. All of us have gone, oh yes, we remember that.
So, you know, for those of you who weren't there and weren't aware of what we're talking about, just Google Grassgate, I'd imagine is will probably find that. It is, yeah, it was a time.
It was only really occurring too in the absolute like the top tiers because you know we were doing racing as well, and that wasn't occurring as much in the lower classes. Perhaps let's say lower classes, but we're still talking about some pretty quick drivers.
I think it's one of those things though, isn't it? When you're at that highest level, you can do anything that you're gonna try and do anything you can to get an advantage, and if you see someone else doing it, all of a sudden you feel like you have to, otherwise you can't compete. And you know, I feel like that's motorsport. Once you hit that top echelon, is if somebody else finds an advantage that only gives them 0.01 of a second, well, that 0.01 when everyone's separated by 0.01 is the difference between first and second, you know. So unfortunately these little exploits and things tend to crop up, and you see it more in the higher levels than you do the lower levels. And to be honest, I'm kind of thankful for it, because it means that the guys down here, they get sort of that sim experience that they're looking for, you know.
I was wondering why the live stewarding team wasn't giving them penalties, giving them warnings to the team engineers for the teams, and then say, you know, you do it again, guys, and you're penalised, just like they do in real motor racing.
Was it actually live stewarded though? Because that was the other thing. I don't think it was.
They would be surprised it's not, if it's the top
because
tier.
It was the top split of the official iRacing 24 Hours of Spa, which I don't think ever gets live stewarded, because I mean, iRacing just don't have the facilities to do it, I would imagine.
Anti-stall racing does.
Yeah, absolutely.
We do. Oh well.
I mean,
that was that. This is now. And Wonko comes into the pits there for the final time, I'd say, for his 8 positions gained, of course, but he's going to drop a couple now. The hyperclass. We still have the Italian trio in 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah. And where did Gianpaolo end up, by the way, out of all of that? Was Gianpaolo still second? So, seems like the undercut didn't really work out in his favour, if we're being honest.
With a 5-second penalty, don't forget, over his head.
Yeah, which will actually push him lower down than Andrea, I believe. I believe he will drop to P3. And potentially, if Tom Dadswell can get a move on, we may find Tom overtaking that, potentially. Or I could be talking absolute nonsense, and that's actually not the case. I believe the gaps may be slightly further ahead than I thought they were.
Race has calmed down a little bit, I'd have to say, from some of the carnage, but we've got 12 minutes to go. So, get your work done now. Paulo Lopez really on the back of Connor, wanting to get past. Been trying to get past for some time. 88 car will be side by side next to Connor. And that's a battle brewing currently at the moment for their, P4, P5 in that class.
Yeah, P4 overall in LMP2. So, you know, points to be gained. Very well defended from Connor Gibb around the outside, actually. Surprised Paolo didn't just send it in and just say to Connor, well, just deal with it. So, you know, it's one of those things that Paolo, I wonder if he's going to start getting frustrated at this point, that he just can't get past.
He needs a little bit more of that Rogue Energy drink, I'd say, to give him a little bit more boost. Because one of our sponsors said he's got on the side of the car here, sponsoring ASR. That's what you need. Come on, Paulo, hit the Rogue Energy button.
Is that like a boost button that's similar to the LMDHs?
Absolutely.
It's just for the LMP2 drivers, sponsored by Rogue Energy, you know? And, you know, it's one thing that we absolutely love to see is just the sponsors as well. We love giving a shout out to our sponsors. So thank you to everyone who helps us put on the show, for everyone else who's watching, you know, as well. Us as commentators, we can't do our job without the drivers. We can't do it without the people watching on the YouTubes as well. And, you know, thank you all for being here. You know, we do this for you guys, ultimately. So thanks for making it so enjoyable.
Like, we could do it, but it would be us talking to a screen and nobody being able to listen. It would just be us talking to ourselves in our room, staring at a screen. And that would be a little bit weird.
Oh, we've been muted the whole time, guys. Sorry. Are you aware? Done that before in the past. No, everybody in the chat, thank you very much for chatting. There are lots of people chatting at the moment and giving us information to what we need as well. Live stewarding is best. Go anti-store, of course. There we go. Paul Lopez making another run, but can't on the outside there.
And what it's enabled is actually Mark is now getting involved. So maybe if Mark is doing... Do we know if Mark is quicker than these guys?
He just pitted from the lead, Mark. So that's crucial for him.
So if Mark can find his way past Paolo, Paolo can use Mark to maybe get his way past Connor. As I will say, I do love Mark's helmet.
Oh, it's fantastic, isn't it? Yeah. Lego man.
Yeah. We absolutely love it. And I believe Connor is in the pits, so pressure may be mounting. Paulo Lopez is now past. I believe this is Mark trying to go for a move on. Paulo does just about get that move done. It was a little bit sketchy, but yeah, Paulo flashing the lights, understandably so, I think. But Paulo maybe have to make the move here. Got to split the GT3. GT3's got to stay in the middle. 3 wide, hold your line. Going into the hairpin. Who's going to come out on top? Is Mark going to be able to fight back? No, unfortunately not. So Mark, all the time that this is happening, by the way, Mark is losing time. So whoever was in P2 before all the pit stop carnage is probably gaining time on Mark.
At the moment, it's James. It's James who is chasing him down in the right now. Was
So
it Dylan?
if James-
Oh, it might be Dylan even. Has maybe just pitted on the last lap as well. So it's either Dylan or James.
James
are the
just
ones
come into the
chasing.
pit stops, leading the class, of course, for the LMPs.
GT3s and LMPs very close in the carousel. Oh, back on Grebstad. I mean, I've got to feel sorry for the GT3s around here because they kind of get bullied everywhere, don't they? It's
Paul Lopez comes to the pits too. So they're the last of the pit stops. So that'll actually put Mark in the lead of this race for the LMPs.
Well, it
I'm pretty
depends.
sure.
James Abram is out of the pit lane now.
Might get it, James.
Where is James? There he is.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's close.
James, this is a battle going into turn 3. Turn 2, I should say. And James Abram does, unfortunately, lose out on the position. Cold tyres. Is he going to have the pace? This is going to be the battle for the overall lead in LMP2. Car number 8 and car number
they're going
33
for it.
weaving side by side. They have to be careful of the GT3. Mark giving no room to James, and James likewise having to use the GT3 here to cause a little bit of a blockade, and does just about manage to get through and put a cup between himself. Oh, jeez, what's going on here? Back on Grebstad on the back of Alessandro. The GT3 battle ever commencing, very close between the car number 37 and 16. It's all kicking off again here in the Anti-Stall Racing IMSA series. 7 minutes to go. Would imagine that would be, what, 4 or 5 more laps of absolute carnage that that Alessandro needs to defend. 4 or 5 more laps, I would imagine, for these GT3 guys. If anybody wants to do the math and double check, feel free. And the Leo Racing BMW now having to get himself involved and trying to make a way through is João Paulo, who is in second place, by the way. Did he just come into the pits?
Yeah, somebody did that. Yeah.
Yeah, they did. Waiting for the last possible minute.
So, João Paulo, splash and dash, yeah, you would imagine, maybe miscalculated the fuel. As the LMP2's now trying to spice things up a little bit between this GT3 battle. Cuts off Matteo there. The LMP2 just decides, nah, you ain't getting past here. Yeah, the LMP2 very rightly flashing the headlights there in the mirrors as trying to make his presence known, I think. Maybe Matteo thinking he's driving with invisible paint as going going into the hairpin. Maybe the move finally gets done and the LMP2 can run away now, but yeah, I mean, it's all spicing up here. And all the time these guys are fighting, by the way. Luigi Nespolino actually now starting to catch up in that Audi. And potentially it could be a Leo Racing 1-2-3 in GT3 if Hakon's not careful.
I want to point out that Jeremy, a couple of laps back, massive crash in the hairpin of the stadium section, big one, to the point where part of his bodywork flew back from the tyre all the way back to the circuit. I don't know if anyone hit it, but yeah, he's now out of the race in 10th in the hypercar. But yeah, big hit for him on his own. Just went deep into the hairpin.
5 minute hits. Potentially, I couldn't see anything happening there. But...
battle for the... Just having a look if it's Dylan and Mark.
No, this will be Dylan and Vessel.
Yeah, the Dutch duo.
Yeah,
that's right.
So this is both No Limits racing teams. As drift from Dylan there. As that will allow Vessel actually to catch up a little bit into the hairpin. But both drivers may be trying to work together, seeing if they can catch up to the back of Mark and make this a 3-way fight for second, maybe even a 4-way fight for first if Mark can catch up to the back of James, who has done incredibly well to get himself from P7 and LMP2
Is this
all the way
the
up.
win? Because James has a 5-second penalty, so even if he wins here, everybody's second place is technically at the moment winning because of James's 5 seconds.
Oh, yeah. So
this
James,
is all about to get a bit implodey at the end here.
So James needs to pull out a gap. He needs to pull out a 5-second gap at least to win this race.
He's not going to do it too because his last lap is a 29. There's a bit of traffic coming too, so it's going to be unfortunate for him.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. It's the penalties are dished, and you serve them cold usually.
And I will say that the battles between all the different classes are spicing up once more. GT3, Luigi Nespolino and Hakon Grebstad, no real gain, I think, for Luigi. I think he's sort of sat and stuck where he is at the moment, as James Ebram is under pressure from Mark. I believe Mark has been catching him by a couple of tenths per lap.
Right then, I just jumped into the steward's room to quickly just grab a piece of paper from them and get them to print stuff out just to work out who's got penalties where, so we know for the climax here. So yeah, what car numbers are who? That's a bit close in the hairpin from Hakon.
We're wondering where you went there, Wes. I think we've got some of those information that's been reported in our channel.
Yes, I went and managed to get the piece of paper, and we got a few 5 and 10s thrown around the place, but I think, what was it? Who is James? Car number 8, isn't he? So he is, got a 5. I don't think anyone else involved in that battle has any penalties to look at, so it is just him in the LMP2s of note.
Did you pick me up a Brett West where you're at?
I was just so quick, I just had to grab it and go.
The Italian trio is untouchable at the moment. Yeah, and in the top of the supercar class there, Tom should finish in that P4 there with Daniel in the P5, gaining a couple of places. But so not too much up there. But once again, James in a bit of trouble. He'll lose those places for the LMPs.
And again, Dylan van der Lands working with his teammate, you would imagine, to try and gain time, but I mean, unfortunately, Vessel is dropping off.
Apparently Brody has crashed.
Yeah, there was. I saw there was a collision, I think, into the hairpin. I think that was Brody.
Oh, no.
Yeah. He goes off to allow one of the cars coming back through. Comes back on track. I'm just trying to have a look. So
here we are. It is on our screens for you all, the viewers, as Brody Maynard. There is James Ebram. Uh-oh.
So all the LMP2s are about up here, aren't they? Oh,
that's...
that was a bit close there.
James probably should have given Brody a bit more space, if we're being honest, but think just a racing incident, you'd imagine.
Yeah.
Is
What's
what
Kevin
that will
done?
go down as.
Did Kevin loop it, or is he
Big
just?
boss
Oh,
man.
wow, I see. He's just off the road.
Now, you wonder if Mark right now, the 33 car, needs to try to get past James, knowing that if he does aware that he has a penalty or not, if his spotter or his team have told him. Is he still putting the pressure there on James? But I would just leave it, wouldn't you?
I don't think Mark knows, though. And surely, as a racing driver, you want to cross the line first, right?
Well, yeah,
like, you don't
'cause
want to be told after
You
the
never
race.
know. He could
you've
go to
won.
the stewards and get that 5-second taken
What happened
away.
to Kevin? Kevin's made a mistake and he's dropped the place. That's the boss man.
I believe that was just the off-track and... Oh, no.
Oh,
This is GT3, and again, the killer grass strikes again. The grass, very dangerous in Germany.
I'm not sure which GT3 that was.
Oh, yeah. And that's against the boss man. So you know what? That's the one car you don't want to be hitting and still racing. Kevin's a nice bloke. I'm sure he'll have a bit of a
Sophia has
smile.
had a crash as well. The hypercars are falling away right at the end here.
Oh, and Daniel and Tom, the battle for P4 and P5, and then all of a sudden, because of that, has bring Daniel into play. But is there enough time? There's not.
Sophia sending it too deep into the carousel, and a little bit of front contact as well, and then a teleport back to the pits.
Oh, that's the last
Unfortunate
lap.
for them.
Well, the last lap. Lorenzo
Last
should be
lap.
finishing soon.
Jeez, already, and that is it. Lorenzo Castellani, followed off by his teammate Andrea Frasinetti, and
But Daniel's fully sending it here. Daniel's fully sending it on Tom because they're on the last couple of corners. He's going around the outside. This is a battle for P4. Has he got enough time?
I mean, he needs to make the move now. It needs to be done right now. Daniel can't be hanging around. He needs to send it, and I just don't think he's close enough.
He got side by side at some point, but not enough now. Yeah, there it is.
What an incredible battle between those two, though. That battle was going for pretty much the entire race, so credit to them. As who ended up coming out on top between James Ebron and Mark Hutchin along the line? It was indeed Mark. So, yeah, James crossed the line first, but obviously has that post-race penalty.
Yes.
But yeah.
Ponta, the leader of the GT3s, has just got a 5-second penalty. But he is 6.2 ahead of P2, I believe, so he should keep it.
Just about keeping it. Fabio Ponta across the line. Who was that involved with? That was car number 70. Was that the... Oh, so that was the GT3 that we didn't know. That was the GT3 we didn't know. Was Fabio Ponta the leader, so... Ooh. That's
Fabio doing burnouts at the moment, of course. He's celebrating his victory there for the GT3 class. And why not? Congratulations. Italian dominations, not in all the classes, of course, but in the supercar class and also in the GT3 class and the LMP class, it was won by Mark, a Brit. British driver.
And then I would imagine...
Oh, sorry, it's not. Yeah, you're right. What was that flag from Mark? My apologies. Georgia. It could be, yeah. Right. Sorry about that then, Mark.
Just trying to work out where James will fall down to with the 5-second penalty. I believe he'll be between Dylan. He'll be between Dylan and Vessel, won't he?
It's extremely close if he has managed to fit there.
Potentially, that might mean James gets demoted from winning in LMP2 to not even on the podium. Which is... I mean, that would be...
I think he might go down to fourth by 2 tenths, if I'm not wrong.
But either way, I mean, that race was absolutely chaos, wasn't it? That race was absolutely mental. But we do have your race results on the screen. Fabio Ponta does indeed take the win in the Leo Racing team, even with a 5-second penalty, unless, of course, he has another one, in which case he will not be winning. Alessandro is P2 for Leo Racing and GT3, followed off by Hakon Grebstad, finishes out your podium in GT3. In LMP2, we have Mark Hutchinson, Dylan van der Lands, and Bessel Bekema. Where did James Ebram end up? Apparently, James Ebram finished 7th in the race results, which is, I'm not sure if that was true or if that was qualifying.
There must be some in iRacing penalties for him.
Oh, that's unfortunate then for James, because that will put him down from winning across the line to finishing 7th.
Yeah, if you look at his timing there, he's a whole 30 seconds behind.
Huh.
So I'd expect he
Yeah, I can see in a
maybe-
chat he said something about a 4x on the hairpin on lap 39. So he may have got some too many off-track points.
And that's an interesting one too, because a lot of going off track in the hairpin is to get out of the way of some of the quicker cars going through. So that's going to be debatable a little bit, you'd have to say.
Yeah,
in the multi-class.
He has opened up a ticket about that, so
yeah,
rightly so, you would imagine. Trying to just discuss what happened. But
it's a Northern Ireland flag for Mark. Thank you very much for.
I thought I was going to put it out there. It might have been the Northern Ireland flag, but I was just like, you said Georgia. I was like, that could be it too.
Yeah, so definitely not a Brit. Well, a Brit. Well, yeah, there you go. So we'll see. Yeah.
In your LMDH class, just to run through the podium, it is a Leo Racing 1, 2, 3 with Lorenzo Castellani, Andrea Frasinetti, and Juan Paolo Cristini there in your top 3. And overall, guys, I mean, what a race that was.
Crazy. We didn't even know it was last lap. How were we meant to know?
I did. My mouse was flashing. It flashes when you're on yellows and white if you're on last laps. And
that's great.
Obviously, that's stuff. Yep.
That's actually pretty cool. I like that.
But yeah, I mean, that race, I think, goes to show how absolutely mental the IMSA series is and how absolutely mental racing at Anti-Stall is, and all for good reasons, mostly. The absolute chaos on lap 3, 4? Between all 3 classes just being right on top of each other before anybody had a chance to really do anything was arguably just set the tone for the race. And, you know, it's one thing that we absolutely love to see in the IMSA series. And Wes, do you know when we are next week for?
I believe
it's or next time.
It's the chicane. It's chicane. It's the new circuit, isn't it? It's many corps.
Circuit de Manicourt. That's gonna be spicy.
I think I've said that with too much confidence. No, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be spicy for sure.
I've never seen a race there, so I don't know what to expect.
Well, we do have, I believe we do have a couple of drivers ready for interviews. We have James Ebram that we can hear from. Potentially some interesting points maybe to bring up and
get your beeper ready.
Happened.
Yeah. I think you might be okay.
Hey James, welcome in. Little bit of an unfortunate race. We're seeing is your thoughts seemingly. Overall, I mean, you crossed the line first after the hour, but it seems like post-race penalty is not the kindest.
Are you there, James? You're live.
Let's see if we can hear.
His nickname's Jimbrium, right? Is it Jimbrium? I think. Yeah, we're not picking
just
up.
Combines his first and last name, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But it doesn't seem like we can hear from James at the moment, so potentially we may not have any interviews.
Hello.
Oh, we got you there, James.
Hey, James.
My mic up connected to my Discord.
Okay.
to answer your question, that was the most unlucky ending to a race I have ever had. To be given a 4x by not even any contact from visually looking at it, by a GT just slightly outbraking themselves, I couldn't believe it because that's the limit is 18x. I was on 14 before that, and it just took me over into 18, which I couldn't believe at all, which I'm really hoping I get that rescinded because that is just the unluckiest way to lose P1, and I am appealing the first penalty, because I believe the GT, actually lost it initially on his own before there was any contact between us. But who knows? Maybe it'll get overturned, maybe not. I mean, I'm pleased with how it ended up, as I ended up first crossing the line, and that's a bit more how it should be for me, at least personally. I feel like last race I was struggling with frame rate issues. I was still struggling with them actually even in qualifying, but I managed to basically remove everything on the track to make that even playable. So it shows that with frame rate everything's better. So hopefully going forward, if I fix that even more, I'll be featuring at the front a bit more often, and maybe a slice of good luck once in a while.
Well, 46 cars, the frame rate was chopping on our supercomputers trying to broadcast as well. So I'm not surprised. But very good racing. Any favourite moments you really enjoyed?
There was two mega overtakes, but I think the one that sticks in my head mostly is the one on Dylan. Hook, line, and sinker, I believe. Make him go tight into turn 2 and then just undercut him just perfectly. That was probably the best move of the race, I think.
And you say, in terms of your favourite moves from the race, I mean, we unfortunately can't capture everything. There is a lot of action that goes on, but
I can imagine, yeah.
Of, with 40, what was that? 44 cars on track all at the same time, 42, something like that. It's it's a little bit crazy, but
46, yeah.
Even more. Go ahead and clip it, by the way, too. If this goes to all the other drivers, go back obviously on the Any Store Racing. Oh, then again, you can't clip it, can you? Only if you were actually aired, of course, no doubt. You can show your clips in the Discord.
But, probably find the lap I did it on. In fact, I think it was lap 21, or maybe 20. It might have been lap 20. Let me just double check. Yeah, was it lap 20? No, it was a lot later than that.
I guess if everybody submitted their favourite overtakes and stuff like that, we'll talk to Gerald about getting them all put together as a highlight reel. We give him more work to do.
Doing IMSA highlights of the week. It's because I mean the racing, James. You must find it obviously being actually involved, and especially in the middle class, the multi-class element of it adds to the racing in terms of you've got so much more to think about compared to like a single class series.
Yeah, I think having experienced every class, I think actually possibly being in the middle class is the hardest, because not only have you got to look ahead, plan your moves ahead, you've got to look behind you. I think in terms of ease, the top class has the easiest. They get always given a lot of grief because people always blame them because they're the one overtaking, and I don't believe that for a second that it's all one-way street. I think a lot of the time the slower class can have an impact on the faster class making contact with them. Things like moving across just before the braking zone, indicating "don't pass me here" is not a good idea. I don't know why people do it. It's kind of stupid, in my opinion. But I think actually it's harder dealing with traffic being the slower classes for sure. And I think being in the middle is probably one of the hardest, because especially when you've got a faster class coming and you've got coming up on a slower class, that can be quite a challenge. Sometimes you've got to think, right, do I go for it, or are they going to go for it, or is the guy ahead maybe going to do a silly blocking move? So that means that I've got to then readjust, and then the guy behind me is already planning his overtake. There's a lot going on in the middle class, and I think it makes it a lot more exciting. And I think I'm kind of glad I was ill during the week that they were doing the pre-quali for the LMDH, so I didn't really set a competitive lap time at all. So I'm quite glad that I'm still in LMV2, because I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And we can't wait to see you back out next time. It will be apparently at one of the newer circuits to iRacing, Magny Core, which is going to be interesting for multi-class. I think is what most people's opinion of that track is. Going to be interesting to see how that works.
Yeah, that middle sector I think is going to be very tricky to navigate with multi-class, because there's a lot of sort of S-bends that aren't really able to go too wide through there. Well, you probably could if you're the same class, but planning a move through there as a faster class is not going to be easy. But you have got that big long straight, well, sort of straight near the beginning of the lap to probably get most of that done anyway. So you've just got to sort of plan it ahead, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. But as I say, we can't wait to see that happen. But James, we'll let you go, mate, and hopefully we can figure out what's going on regarding the race result. And
Yeah.
we can update people at the start of next race.
We'll see. I suspect they're probably not going to get overturned, but we'll see.
Well, either way, mate. Hope you enjoy the rest of your night. And
Yep.
regardless, you drove an amazing race, so congratulations on that.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you very much, and thanks to ATRS Academy as well for at least sticking with me for a bit. Sometimes I don't always show myself in the best light, but I think today I did much better at that, so I'm quite pleased with that.
Absolutely, mate.
All right, cheers, guys. Thank you very much, and I'm looking
Cheers.
forward to watching the stream back in your commentary.
Cool. Are we hearing from anyone else, or is that it? That's all we have time for, unfortunately. And just any final thoughts from anyone? Biggles and Wes, you got any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
Yeah, that was a bit crazy. That was last week, 2 weeks ago. I said that the LMP2 was quite crazy and quite a good one, but I think all three classes today were quite insane. Hypercar was very close this week. GT3 quite close as well, to be honest with you. Very close looking at the finishing times. And LMP2 again was absolutely on it. And with this circuit, it was tight all the time, and there was three wide. There was a lot. It was really good, though. Not too many incidents with slower cars overtaking faster ones or anything like that. But yeah, it was good, really good. Really looking forward to next week. I think the championships are looking quite good, quite close in Hypercar and LMP2. GT3 a little bit more. You feel like you know what's going to happen, but it's still pretty close and quite intense racing. So it was really good fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Biggles, any final thoughts before we head off there?
It's full of rogue energy. That's all I can say. It's absolutely great, right? You guys summed it up brilliantly. Yeah, it's been fantastic. And to join you guys into the casting booth, and looking forward to the future racing that we have here at Anti-Store Racing.
Oh, darling, if I had bought you flowers, would you still be here by my side? Yeah, I thought this moment could be ours, while I'm walking only through the night. You can break my bones, break all the promises, but leave me alone. Don't break my heart. You should fucking stay with him. You should fucking stay with him. Darling, if I had bought you flowers, what if you stayed at home the night? Yeah, I've been lonely counting hours, while I'm getting blinded by the light. You can break my bones, break all the promises, but leave me alone. Don't break my heart. You should fucking stay with him.
could stay with